Hey folks, welcome to the table. This video may seem similar to one that you may have seen, just last week. I am actually re-recording something because I got a rule wrong, and I wanted to make sure I did it proper justice, especially since this is in Kickstarter. I don't want to mislead people who somehow come to my page. I know I don't advertise or anything, but I don't want folks to come here and get wrong information. So I'm going to re-record and make sure I got everything absolutely correct this time. So War Room, this is a game that my son and I covered when it first came out. We've covered it a lot. We've played it so many more times and didn't record our playthroughs. We probably play this easily once a month, if not more than that. And I know that may not seem like a lot, but considering we have over 200 games in this house, that's a lot of playtime for us. We love this game. Now, it is on Kickstarter, and there's some things I wanted to talk about for those of you who already have the game, like I do, and what are some of the big changes. I did some research on it, and also just a little bit about play balance, which, my sons and I are very much with the conclusion that the Axis have a real hard time winning in this game. You need a lot of luck to go your way. It's very, very difficult. Japan, by the way, is strong, but they're also isolated. So they can pretty much do whatever they want, but they're not really going to impact the winning of the game. Germany, on the other hand, gets crushed. And so does Italy. And if the Allies focus solely on Germany, they can really win. They can, in fact, completely ignore Japan and only focus on Germany, and it would be really difficult for the Axis to win. Now, with that being said, there have been some rule changes that have been released, and I guess they were released a while ago. I just don't go out to Board Game Geek enough to notice it. And there were also some changes with I had a token hidden underneath. There were also some changes with a mini expansion, which I have nothing but praise for both of these, all of these changes actually. And in my opinion, it addresses the play balancing. But let's first talk about the Kickstarter, and then we'll talk about the new rules and go from there. First of all, the Kickstarter really doesn't change any rules. There is one, I would call it a minor change, but it's a really good one, and that is they made a change to the morale board. The morale board in general is going to be completely redone. It'll look very different than this in the Kickstarter, but the information is more or less the same. It's just maybe organized better. But what they made a change is right here, at 90 or more casualty points, a country would gain 5 stress, and we're talking the global game here. They added in a 6th column, so now it goes up to, I believe, 118 or something like that. And don't quote me on the number, but there's a number 6 over here, and so now it goes from 90 to 118, and then at the 6 it's at 118 plus, or whatever that number is, and then it's possible to get 6 stress. So it just makes it so countries can be punished that much more for losing a lot of stress, or getting a lot of casualties, if you will. Okay, so let's talk about some of the rule changes. And again, this is not part of the Kickstarter. It's just the 2 of them are from the mini expansion, and one of them is just a suggested rule change. And then let's talk about that one first. It's called the Stlin Rule. So the way the game plays right now is Russia and Japan sort of have this peace treaty, and if one were ever to attack the other or move troops into the other's territory, it would be a break of the non-aggression pact, and they would automatically get 7 stress. That's all base game stuff I'm talking about. The big change is that well, let's stay on the base game for a second. What you can see here is you can see like American troops and British troops helping to defend Russia from German aggression. And that's not actually what happened in this game, but it's very feasible. in terms of like what could have happened if you're playing the base game. And so that makes it really hard for Germany to win, which is the whole point I was talking about, where if you focus on Germany early, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what does the Stlin Rule do and how does that change things? Well, the Stlin Rule is that until Russia moves on the morale track to the yellow region, which is the dysfunctional infrastructure, until they get there, basically Russia is allied with the other, nations, but they're on their own. And there's a lot of thematic reasons for this. I mean, Russia was an ally, but that doesn't mean that they were friends, right? So, so basically the rule is that no allied troops other than Russia are allowed to be in Russian territory. And that's any of the brown territories, which are, of course, the starting Russian territories, but it also includes Ukraine and Belarus, because see, it has the brown around them. So allies are not allowed to go in there either. And so I think there's no Russian territory over here. So that's the only extra brown spots, are those two. So why does that make a difference? Well, the Germans actually do have an advantage on Russia in the beginning. And if Japan were to also break the non-aggression pact and attack, and basically you focused on Russia as the axis, you really can make a huge dent in Russia if and only if the Allies can't bring reinforcements. And the lack of reinforcements until they move to yellow means that you can punch quite hard, and then the Allies are only able to help. So there's a lot to talk about there from a strategy perspective, but it's a rule change that does benefit the Axis in every way. There's no benefit to the Allies in this rule change. So, will it alone, cause the Axis to start winning all the time? I don't believe so. It can be argued that the Russians don't need Allied forces on their territory, like you see here, because you can still harass Germany in other ways, right? But I think it's a good rule, and I definitely wanted to highlight and talk about that. The thing that I think, as we've matured in playing this game, is America and Britain have a lot of troops, and you can see Jason, my son, was playing as America here, and see this big stack of doom right here in A3? And then there's another stack that he's producing over there in America. You notice what he's doing? He's just producing giant stacks of troops and bringing them and landing them in Norway. But see, that sea zone is so big that he can land them right into R3 here. Is that R3? I think it is, yes, R3. So he can land them right into R3, which is what you're seeing him do. He could also land them in Finland if he wants. Now here's the power of what he's doing is he's there, and then in one more turn he can move them over here. He can move them down there to A15, or he can even move them in here. And you can see he has almost complete control of the Atlantic from a Navy perspective. So a couple of things, as the Germans, you can keep sending planes to attack this sea zone and, catch him off guard. He knows that. He got away with it this time because I didn't this time. It's a rock, paper, scissors game when it comes to that kind of thing. But those stacks of troops are really difficult to overcome. Now, if he can't land into Russia, he could at least land into Norway and Finland and take those away from Germany pretty easily. Now, the rest of it is now he's got to attack France or come into, some closer territory. That does make it harder. And I still think that overall the Axis get a little bit of a breathing space because those big stacks of troops now have to come into sea zones that you can attack with your planes. And you can get really aggressive at going after the Navy of the Allies. And it would make it harder for him to just keep bringing in troops like this. If we were to make a big dent into Russia, it doesn't take long for them to get to the yellow zone. I mean, with 3 stress, 2 stress, 2 stress, 3, this is 5. I mean, there's a lot of stress that goes on to Russia fast. It doesn't take super long for them to get to yellow. And once they do, then those big stacks of doom can land in Russia, no problem. A couple other things, and I know I could probably spend a whole hour talking about the strategy of how to invade Europe from America, but to me, if you're playing as the Allies in this game, and you want to know why we believe the Allies can win more often than not, it's America. And what's really funny is that we used to give America to the new guy, because we figured, okay, you have territory that's really far away, you know, Germany and Japan aren't really going to hurt you back there. So you can sort of fiddle whatever you like, and you know, you don't have to worry about, you know, losing territory and feeling like this game stinks. The problem is if you don't have a good American player, the Allies struggle. Britain does not stand a chance against Germany alone. Neither does Russia. The two together are barely able to. It's the American part that puts them over the top. And it's really funny because we've now shifted that America is the most important, and we actually give the new guy Great Britain, because Great Britain, you know, you got Africa here, you got India there. I mean, you have some control spots that you need to try to worry about, but other than that, Britain usually doesn't have much to worry about. And to be quite honest, they spend the whole game struggling. They're rarely ever powerful. But anyways. The big thing to just say here is that America can concentrate on just one side of the theater, you know, the European theater, and just flood us with troops. And it's really difficult for Germany, even if Italy is supporting Germany, to beat all that back. And another thing that my son in particular, he believes that the green dice are too rare. And so he will build nothing but tanks. And you can see that he has other troops, because obviously you get to count blacks and whites if you do, but the big tank stacks are a big deal for him. And they're really difficult to eliminate, especially when you just put them in defensive mode at all times, which is what he does. And so you got a 4 stack of tanks, and then you got another 4 stack of tanks coming from there. And because of America's oil and iron production, they can just flood you with tanks. And actually that's a 5 stack of tanks back there. So he's got 9 tanks coming within 2 rounds, and I gotta somehow defeat all that. And when I'm rolling my dice, you know, the chances of getting a green are just, I think they're what, maybe 1/3? Or no, this is a 12-sided die. So that would be 2 out of 12. So 1/6 chance of getting a green. So 1/6 chance is not very good. I mean, if you were playing a game where you're rolling D6 dice, you know, and you know, if somebody says, hey, do you want to put 80 bucks that you're going to roll 2? I mean, I wouldn't take that bet, because there's a real good chance you're not rolling a 2. But that's the thing with the green. Now, if you can add the blacks and the whites, then it becomes 1/3, I believe it does. The white, of course, needs a little bit of support, but the extra black side does help. But anyways, you get the point. Tanks are really, really hard to destroy. And when you start mass producing tanks like that, it is extremely difficult. So one of the things you have to do with Japan is go after America and harass them, so they're not focusing solely on Europe. But that's easier said than done. And you can see here that, you know, we have a big standoff going on between Japan and America. And yeah, it's not fun. Now, the other thing is that America can take their armies here, and there's this little bit of Kamchatsky, yes, R17, and you can see there's that tiny little divot that goes into this C zone, P3. So, right here. So that tiny little divot puts this into that C zone. So these troops can land in R17 from P3, and they don't have to move to P2, which is within striking distance of my carriers. And that little knobby that they put there allows America to just flood troops into Russia from the other end. And I think the largest advantage of this rule, the Stlin Rule, is on turn 1, Japan can invade Russia, break the non-aggression pact, go after Russia, and America is not allowed to help. Because what America can do is they can actually focus on Russia from the other way and come from the Pacific side and then flood into R-17 and then come in and the rest is history. Japan is in trouble because now they're going head-to-head against America. Well, with this rule, Japan can start flooding into Russia and America is not there to do anything about it, at least for a little bit. And that's a big advantage. Okay, enough of that rule. Let's talk about the other two rules. This is part of a micro expansion or mini expansion that they have. And I got the rule with the convoys wrong in my last video, so I will make sure I address that correctly this time. But the first one, which is one that we talked about on this channel when we first played this game, and we just applaud that they put in the rule. It makes total and complete sense. It definitely needs to happen. And that is submarines. So if we look at our board here, a submarine, I'm just grabbing one off the side here. A submarine, if it takes a hit, it dives. And then if it survives the 10 dice that were rolled, or however many you rolled, it will escape. That's basic rules. But per the basic rules, when that escapes, if any allied ships remain, they're going to stay in the same sea zone as the submarine. So in the very next turn, the next game turn, those submarines are pinned and they're forced into battle again. And so it's just a matter of time before they're completely destroyed. So them diving and escaping was pointless. I mean, maybe it bought you some time. That's all the more it would have done. So the key thing here is that we believe that if a submarine dives and escapes, escape means escaped. And that's exactly what the new rule is. So the new rule, and this is an exact scenario where that happened. Jason intercepted me in A13, and my submarine, he actually sank 2 of my subs, but the third one escaped into A8 there. And so when I escape at the end of the combat round, I get to put a command token on it. So I put that 3 on there, and I escape from A13 over to A8. So now I'm free. So yes, can he pin me again? Of course he can, but now he has to bid oil. And that is the big change to this rule. The escaping thing is just part of it. The fact that he has to bid oil. So I had 3 submarines in A13. He needed to go first to be able to pin me because I had plans to move out of A13 and cause problems for him, right? So unless he predicts exactly where I'm going, he has to move into my area and pin me. The only way he can do that is to go first. And in order to go first, he has to bid oil. He ended up bidding 9 oil to do that. That's America bidding 9 oil, okay? So remember I just explained to you how he was building all these tanks, 4 and then 5, right? Tanks require oil. That was 9 oil to build these tanks here and here. So what I did is I started to use my submarines to harass him. And in doing so, he had to bid 9 oil to intercept me. That 9 oil just prevented him from building 9 tanks. So you could see how I'm indirectly affecting my game and trying to disrupt his strategy of just flooding me with tanks. And that's the whole reason I went into that diatribe about the tanks, is in this particular rule, the submarines forced him to bid 9 oil so he could go first, and then he pinned me, which is fine, and I took a little bit of luck with the dice, which I'm glad it turned out that way. I was able to escape with 1 sub to here. Well, now he's gonna have to bid 9 oil again because Germany is, yeah, we're building some stuff, but I have a lot of oil with Germany. And in my situation, Germany has control of the oil in Egypt and also the control of the oil in the Middle East. I'm getting a lot of oil. And so for him to outbid me, he has to bid 9 or more, usually. I think I can get him up to 13 if he really wants to try to go for it. Or otherwise, my submarine is gonna be hitting his convoys and causing other problems. And also, anyways, I'm digressing, but you get the point. So the fact that he has to bid oil a second time, in the base rules, once he pinned me, I'm done. It may have taken several rounds for him to finish me off, but I'm done. And then, you know, all those other rounds that it's taking him, he gets to spend that oil on other purposes. But because I was able to escape, he has to spend oil on multiple rounds to pin me again. And I think that, above all things, folks, is the power of that rule change. And again, I can't applaud enough. And thematically, it just feels so much better. I mean, your submarines escaped, so of course they can escape. And yes, maybe they tracked them down again, and you know, the helicopters and the search planes or whatever, you know, was able to find them again. But the point is they escaped, and so very good. Now the last rule, which is convoys, and I have some Japanese ships here by the South Africa, and of course they have a carrier. So the way the rule works is I could roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 ships here, so I would get to roll 6 dice, plus this would make it a 7th. And then what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to roll a blue or a yellow. So if I roll, so I rolled 2 yellows and 1 blue. Now there's only 1 yellow here and 1 blue. So, and it doesn't matter how many there would have been. All I need is just 1 yellow and 1 blue. That's it. Everything else that's duplicate or whatever doesn't matter. Okay, so by rolling the yellow and blue, Britain would lose a yellow OSR and a blue iron. This is all base game rules here. So what's changed? Well, what's changed is now they've lost these 2 ships, so they would lose 6 casualty points. So we represent that by taking these submarine tokens, and we can put it onto their casualty board. So they lost 2 transports. So 2 transports would show up here. And if you buy their little mini expansion, they actually have special tokens that look like transports sinking that would go on the board. I'm just using the submarine ones because they're the same value as a submarine. So you can put 2 submarines there, and that would represent the 2 transports or convoys that were sunk. Now, on my playthrough, when we first got this game and we did our playthrough, we did get a few rules wrong because we're still learning the game. But one of the things that's super duper important now is to understand how convoys work, because I guess there was a big Board Game Geek discussion, and a big thank you to the people who posted about that in my previous video. But anyways, let's say that my ships were here. So here you can see, and now the Axis are controlling both Egypt and the Balkans in this situation. And well, let's do the British ships are there. How about that? So the Allies are going to attack convoys. You don't have to say, I'm attacking this convoy or I'm attacking that one. You're just in the region. So there's 2 ships, so you would roll 2 dice. And I rolled a blue and a yellow, so the blue and the yellow would have sunk. Now, what if I would have rolled a red? The red is an interesting one. Because there's 2 red convoys in that sea zone, then both of them sink. So this 1 red would cause 2 to go down. And so it hits everything that's in the zone. Now that's the important part to this convoy rule to understand. And if you come over to here with Italy, there's 1, 2, 3 iron there in M2. So the blue would cause 3 convoys to be sunk. So that's a very important strategic place for the Axis to control and for the Allies to possibly be able to bomb. So this is a rule that can affect, it can support the Allies or it can support the Axis. It's like it can go either way. But in addition to losing the resources, you now also take casualty points for every. So in this case here, if they would have rolled a blue, not only would there have been 3 iron resources lost, 2 from Italy, 1 from Germany, there would have been 2 submarine casualty points applied to Italy and 1 submarine casualty point applied to Germany. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. From a strategic perspective, I fully confess we've been playing it wrong. So I don't want to explain how we were doing it because I don't want to confuse anybody, but we were playing it wrong. And so we haven't had a chance to fully play this to flesh out, you know, how those would change the strategy of games. I can tell you that all the capital regions seem to be very problematic. Like P0 here for Japan has tons of convoys, as does M2, and even over here in A15, you got convoys for Germany here and there. So I'm tending to believe that it would favor the Allies by quite a bit if they can, you know, muster control in the seas. However, I was able to easily come down here to South Africa to hit these. The Eastern Australia convoys are super easy to get, and there's nothing they can do to stop you there. So you could really cause a lot of havoc on Britain with just a few ships from Japan. So anyways, I hope you found this helpful. If you're considering the Kickstarter, the big thing is that I covered the only rule change with the Kickstarter. Everything else is just looks, things to make it more efficient. They did get rid of like a few components that, to be quite honest, you don't need. But you know, just to streamline it, I think they made the books for giving your orders a little smaller, just to save some costs. But to be quite honest, I have this, and it's awesome. It's just, you know, we use these, and the only thing I would give as a criticism, and it's really just a constructive feedback thing, is you can see we put a sticker here to show that this is Japan's order book. Without that sticker there, they all look the same. So then you're constantly opening them up and trying to figure out, okay, is this Japan, is it not? And even here, you can't tell it's Japan unless you, oh, I'm sorry, it's right there, but it's covered. You see, this thing covers the fact that that says Japan. So anyways, it's so minor, it's not even funny, but just a little sticker was all it took, and now we're good. All right, thanks for watching, and as always, stay awesome.